Oh, this has been a long time for me, since my high school days. I remember listening to this man's music at parties trying to show off to women. Did it work? No. But I still tried. This man is one of my favorite singers of all time. Mark, who do we have with us? Who's on our panel today, Mark? Go ahead.
We have Vintersorg.
The others. Mark, the other people, come on.
Yes, and we also have Jesse and Derek.
Hello.
Andreas, what's your favorite food?
Oh, okay. Are we? Is it that type of interview? Fine. I'm a meat guy. I'm a chicken guy. I am like vegetarian food. There's so many good foods. So just a favorite. Okay. We go for beef, or I don't know. It could be something else tomorrow. I don't know. I like so much stuff, and I try to vary a lot. But meat is, of course, something that I would have a little bit hard time to be without, I guess.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
And I may not pronounce it correctly, but I was wondering if you could explain to everybody what the meaning of Tillfjells is really all about.
Yeah, we had the first album, Tillfjells, and we now did a kind of a sequel to it. So I think, of course, it's nice to talk a little bit about what it's all about. Tillfjells is kind of a term that you use when you go up into the mountains. I want to be Tillfjells. I want to be up in the mountains. I want to be in the mountains and hiking, exploring, just wandering around, just live there, just visit there, whatever. Tillfjells means that you are at that place throughout the two albums regarding a lot of that kind of concept. Of course, this depends also a little bit. The Swedish mountains are quite differentiated. We have very steep, very harsh mountainsides. We have very flourishing green mountain places. So it's this kind of mountains we have here, at least. I guess that's kind of, I don't know, it's general, but we have so many aspects of being out in the mountains. I don't know, that song is so simple, but it has something in it that goes into people's minds. I don't know what it is about that. It's a very simple song. It's a very simple melody on the piano, but it has something. I don't know even. I wrote it in like half an hour or something like that. So it was like it's not like this. Oh, big, I have an Excel sheet, I have to go through that, and then it was like a totally out of the blue, out of feeling on the guitar and the piano, and like, okay, there we have it. I think a lot of my music and the lyric it's very much describing what I see, how I see it, and what I feel when I see it, and stuff like that. It's not so much about this is correct, this is wrong, should you do that, you should do this. It's more like, because I'm a nature freak and I'm a science guy, so I think man and nature has good companionship, and I guess in those albums, in a lot of our albums, it's always like the relation between man and nature. The nature could be just the nature you see here on Earth, but the nature could also be like the more cosmological concept that we have used on some albums.
What was like your biggest influence? Because when you listen to Otig and then you listen to your new stuff and the Vintersorg stuff, it's all very similar.
Yeah, it has this kind of folk vibe, I guess. I've always lived very close to nature. I was born out really on the countryside, and I have a lot of friends, but the best part in my head was kind of nature in a way. So I was always out there doing stuff, finding out stuff, trying out stuff. That was really nice. And I guess that really made me go into this kind of lyric-wise, into that direction. In those days, a lot of the kind of folk music here in Sweden, there were, was very, very kind of related to the origin of nature, the origin of, picked up that kind of melody language in a way or another. And that's why I think I also had that with me in mind when I started to play music. Okay, I've been playing some much death metal bands, black metal bands, but I was longing for more kind of a melodic stuff, and I was longing for the acoustic stuff that I played on the side and stuff like that. So in a way, I guess yes, the Vintersorg was the way that I united a lot of that kind of stuff, make kind of more of a unity of it.
That's what I wanted to ask about, like, especially with black metal, clean vocals are kind of rare, like people don't really do them much. And I wanted to ask, like, what was your, I guess, original impetus, if you will, to do lots of clean vocals in your music?
I think it's more like 93, 94, something like that. I felt a little bit fed up with all the growling. I've been doing that for 10 years or 8 years, whatever, in death metal bands. I felt like I needed to do something different, and I had a lot of inspirations. I have a lot of songs that I've written and stuff like that. So I just wanted to make it something else, I guess. It's very hard to really analyze it more kind of from a scientific point of view, what led to what and stuff like that. It was a lot about driven by emotions, I guess. I got a lot of bad feedback at the time. You're mixing black metal with clean vocals. Acoustic guitars in black metal, it shouldn't ever happen. For me, it's more like perfect. The world has been opened up a little bit. Now it's okay to do it. You haven't to be to this. Oh, we're true black metal. We can only do this. Well, do what you like.
It seemed like you started with like a lower voice in the early days, and then around Cosmic Generator era,
Genesis.
or maybe a little bit Cosmic Genesis or Spiral Generator. I mean, you started your voice, like, is it just me, or did you kind of bring it up a little bit?
That was totally right. I think it was a little bit of a challenging myself. I did we started with the Cosmic Genesis, and especially on the EP before that, the Pagan Hearted EP, Hednisk Hjärtad. I had a really lower voice, and I wasn't fed up with my own voice, but I was trying to challenge myself, I guess. And also, I guess it was a little bit also that I was going into Borknagar, and I had to sing other vocalist songs. It was kind of a natural transition towards a little bit of higher kind of register. And then I have come back a little bit lower for sometimes on the second Tillfjäll's album, and then I've done a little bit lighter, higher up registered vocals for some other songs. So I think I've tried now to vary a lot, but of course my trademark is not the really, really high-pitched power metal album type of vocals, and I'm not good at that as well. So I think I'm in the mid-range, a little bit on the lower side, and I will do some higher stuff.
So
Yeah, that's a cool evolution, because a lot of singers usually their voice gets higher, then over time it gets lower.
We'll see when I'm 60, and then I have to go very, very low again.
What was your worst stage experience on stage?
That's very, very easy. I had one time, was it not in Belgium, was it in some show in Europe at least? You feel like kind of, I had a really bad cold throughout some days on the tour. We did some really great shows, but I had really some quite high fever, but I still managed to do the shows. But it came to one day there that I got on stage. The show was starting, and I felt like I was going to fall down nearly. And and the worst thing is, like, the whole Vintersorg appearance, good or bad, is depending a lot on my voice.
Sure.
Is my voice great? will be hopefully a great gig.
Mhm.
Is my voice not so great? Many people say, yeah, the bass player was great, but the vocalist sucked. Like, yeah. So I had that one show that my voice note was really not. Yeah, it was very challenging, and it felt like I was totally. I felt so really bad for the audience. But when you're a musician, you're painting up those birth scenarios in your head. Like, okay, that was a fucking crap gig. Then you talk to the audience and like, no, it was okay. Like,
Exactly.
all right.
Exactly.
So, but for me, that was my worst gig when you don't trust your own voice. Because when I'm doing all the screaming voice, and I need to know that in the next blink of a second, I have to go into clean voice and I have to trust that I'm hitting that right note. And I couldn't trust my own voice to hit that right note. I felt like this is totally Jeopardy. We are just on a kind of roller coaster here. We will just go along and see where it ends up. And I had like 39.6 in like fever Celsius, like, so I was like totally yeah. And the tormentor like, why haven't you talked about getting the real drugs here? Like well, I don't like to, but you're taking some crap painkillers. You need better stuff. We can go into pharmacies and get better. I don't know. I was like, I will write this out. And the day after, I was kind of, I think I've reached the top for the bad illness, and the next day was much better.
So when was the last time that you were actually on stage, and doing a performance? Because I know there's been COVID and things got shut down. Now they've been reopened. I was just curious.
I think I have to go a little bit back in time. I think it's like 4 years ago or something like that, and we played the gig here in Sweden. And before that, it was also a long time, because Vintersorg hasn't been a kind of live band that we are doing a lot of shows, and that has several different reasons behind that. First of all, my main target, what I'm doing this all for, is the feeling of writing music. And that will sounds very awkward, maybe, or boring for fans or people like music. But the thing for me is that being a musician is to write the music itself. When you're doing that, you're exploring stuff, you're doing stuff for the first time, you're trying to figure out something really, what your mind, you got some ideas, you want to put that into notes, and then you somehow try to make that into a more kind of wholeness and stuff like that. From time to time, you really get a really good song that you think this is the shit, like. And then you go on stage. The time on stage meeting the fans is totally awesome. Then you go to the hotel, you go to the bus, you go to the traveling, you go to all that other stuff that I'm not totally fond of. But that's of course a part of the deal. But the best thing with music for me is like writing music. Reproducing it is really nice when you get the feedback from the fans and you see that they like it, and you have that really nice kind of I don't know, dialogue with them on stage, and that's awesome. You get a really kick of that, and hopefully the fans get a really kick of that as well. But I've always doing this, and this sounds very egoistic, but it's always been like writing music just for myself, then let it out to the world. To sum it up a little bit, we're not afraid of playing live, but it has a lot of different also other reasons behind it. Is kind of work situations, and in Vintersorg we have been 2 guys, now we are 3 guys. We always have to kind of lend in people with session musicians, stuff like that. So we have focused more on writing new stuff and getting it out. But I miss a little bit now, because when I was playing in Borknagar, we did a lot more live shows, and of course I missed that a little bit now when I'm not a vocalist there anymore. So hopefully we will get a little bit out with Vintersorg and do some shows.
Yeah, well, who wants to tour anyway? Fuck all that. But I kind of have, I kind of missed the touring. Like one of the last shows I did got to perform with Limp Bizkit, and it was a blast. But I have a two-part question for you. Kind of, when you did perform live,
Yep.
I've seen a lot of videos when you're playing bass. Was there any reason you chose the bass?
If we will divide Vintersorg live playing in kind of two sections, so the first section I did the bass. In the last section, I've done the guitars. I guess it has been a little bit about more logistics and session members who we could get on board and stuff like that. I always played the guitars on the albums. For the first kind of, if you split it up in section, the first section, I thought it was better to do the bass and the vocals, and we got another guitarist living in our town that could fill in and stuff like that. The second section of this, I felt like, well, the guitar is my natural habitat, but the bass is also my natural habitat. I played the bass and the guitars on the album, so but on the many albums, I wouldn't say that I've done on the last two albums, because then we have a new guy, Simon is playing, Simon is doing the bass, and therefore also from now and further on, it's very much more natural that I'm doing the guitar on live, because we have a bass player in the band now.
I was gonna say, speaking of some of the guest bass, I mean, you have my hero, Steve DiGiorgio, on a couple records.
Oh yeah.
And his work, especially on Visions from the Spiral Generator, are some of my favorite bass works like ever. I just kind of wanted to get your take on like how that all came about, how you guys ended up working together.
Go back now in time, like year 2000, stuff like that. We have done the Cosmic Genesis. I was playing with Borknagar. I did a lot of shows with Borknagar. I was talking a lot with the guys there. I was aiming for something a little bit new, as I always do with Vintersorg and what I'm involved in. I did know that I wanted a little bit of a new direction for Vintersorg. I wanted to explore a little bit different areas, because I felt a little bit that I was kind of repeating. We did the Fjälls, we did the Ödemarkens Son, the Cosmic Genesis, of course. It was a little bit new language, but it has followed me kind of the same principles of the previous album. So I was heading in and kind of, I needed a little bit of a new direction, and I think it just came a little bit out of the blue that me and the drummer in Borknagar, Asge Mikkelson, that was also playing on the Visions from the Spiral Generator, was just chatting with each other on the tour when we were sitting in the bus. Like, okay, I think I want to go in a little bit of a new direction, and he was like, but if we would do that, yeah, and he was like, okay, what are you thinking? I don't know, a little. I just writing new songs. I feel they're a little bit more progressive. They're a little bit more kind of technical in a way that if you compare to the early Vintersorg. And he was like, yeah, but if we go that direction, I would like to play the drums. And he was, in Borknagar, and he also did the Spiral Architect album. His Spiral Architect, his other band. And he was like, if we do that, if you go that path, we would need the Steve DiGiorgio on bass for that. I was like, hey, that's my favorite guy, like from many years playing bass for. He has so broad palette, so that would be the dream. Like, and I think we just send it out of the blue and think like, okay, hopefully he will answer the mail or something like that. And he came back. I think we had some connection between our record companies and stuff like that. But I think he came back quite early with like, okay, try to send me some songs and I will see a little bit about it. He got a little bit hooked about that, I think. And all of a sudden, I was sitting on a plane over the Atlantic, and we did a bass recording in. Now I'm so bad with these suburbs and stuff like that, but I was landing in San Francisco, and he lives in Antioch, so some places between there. We did all the recording of the bass on that album, and then we got home, and then I took the recording back home to Sweden, and we got to Norway for the processing and the whole mixing of the album.
That just sounds insane. Going to a different continent just to get a bass tracks, you know? Yeah.
Well, it's a DiGiorgio bass track, so I don't know.
you will travel the world for that.
Okay, so my favorite album of yours is Udenmarken Sund. Did I say it right?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Like, finding, I don't know, I'm going to ask Derek and I'm going to ask Jesse the same question, but finding your albums was like a freaking treat, man. Like, I remember the first time I heard Vintersorg was the Udenmarken Sund album through a friend, and I remember I had to go to specific record stores in Chicago to find underground metal.
I had that exact same experience finding like both a friend of mine, and we were both in the same record store, and we were both like, look, it sucks when you go to the record store with your friend because you're like, there's one copy of something that you both want or whatever. You're like, oh man, okay, you can have that one, but I get the next one. And you stumbled across like $2.99 used copy of, I believe it was Soul Rotaire, or it was one of from the era, and I was like, oh my God, what a find! You know, like in Chicago record store, can you find this?
Yeah. We had a special store called Nightfall Records, man. They got all this stuff. Like it was owned by Don Decker, believe it or not, of Anoblast. It was his store.
Oh man, R.I.P.
So we had all these underground like metal albums. I remember picking up Udenmarken Sund and just being like, this. Like, I felt like I won the lottery. Like, it was like, yeah, this is me. This is for me, and all my friends would listen to it. Derek, what about you? How did you find and get into Vintersorg, actually?
Actually, I think Jesse picked up the album.
He didn't actually bought that album. He gave it to you.
Yeah, but that album, Udenmarken Sund, though, like the second track, Cheval Winter.
Oh, the star. Yeah, I would. It would be easier if you call it in English. I think it means something like kind of the star winter. It's not a real story that I have been noticing myself, but it's kind of a historical roots to that, and it's called the Starved Winter, and it's there's some historical roots that where I live, the winter is kind of harsh on you, and if you are not prepared with food enough, and if you are living an older time than now, you can have really big problems to survive that kind of seasons. Where I live, we have 4 seasons that are very, very distinct. You really know that now it's summer, now it's autumn, now it's winter, now it's spring. Of course, they are merging together a little bit, but today here in Skellefteå, where I live, we have nearly 30 degrees Celsius plus. This is extremely I think it's very, very hot, and I don't cope with it very well. And in the winter we could have minus 30 degrees Celsius.
Yeesh.
So so you have this very, very kind of it's very distinct seasons, and the winter time very, very harsh, and the star winter, I think, yes, it was kind of I just wanted to set kind of an scenario about it, and that was the song really.
I've got 3 quickies all about Udenmarken's Soul.
Oh yeah.
The first one, I actually was on tour with Borknagar last month.
Cool.
Devastation on the
cool. All right.
And Lars and I had like a 5-minute discussion on how to properly pronounce Udenmarken's Soul.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's that. Second quickie is, it was actually Derek. It was Mark who brought home a copy of Udenmarken's Soul. And we listened to it in his house. I remember, so it was Mark who discovered it. And then I actually remember hearing of it. The third quickie is reading through like Metal Maniacs, where you see all these bands and stuff. And I remember seeing an ad for it and being like, okay, I know this is not actually what this means, but man, this Udenmarken guy sounds really awesome. And this album is about his son. So his son must be even more.
Right. And then we go to the title actually of the album. It would be something like the Son of the Wastelands or Son of the Wilderness or something like that. And I was actually referring a lot to myself in that kind of title. Like, okay, I've always felt like I am that type of guy. I'm the son of the wild and the son of the wastelands, and haven't really made any more kind of deeper and more profound things that, oh, I'm the chosen one. Not like that. More like I've always felt like I've been a part of the nature and the wastelands, and yeah. So the title is referring a lot to myself in that sense, that I was trying to express something with that, I guess.
That's similar. That must have had a lot to do with. I'd like to hear a little bit about how you end up connecting with Borknagar, because it seems like you guys have a very similar look, or like kind of vibe as far as what your music represents and what it's about. So it seemed like a very natural thing that eventually you guys joined forces.
Yeah, that's also, I guess, was a little bit of time of Cosmic Genesis. I've done Vintersorg for some years, and me and Øystein from Borknagar have been doing some correspondence and via mail and stuff like that, and we have decided to meet up in Bergen in Norway. I flew over there. We had some really nice weekends and talked a lot. We have a lot of similar views about man, nature, what we are, how we should behave, and a lot of stuff. We could probably have some differences also in the way that we look on man and nature and the world as we're living in. But we have a really lot of in common, and we felt that this is something that we wanted to I guess dig a little bit deeper into. And then all of a sudden the old vocalist left the band, and yeah, we were talking about it, and I did some rehearsal with the band, and then I got the opportunity to be the vocals in that band, and of course I jumped for that. So it was really something, kind of a natural process.
Speaking of Borknagar, though, then Vortex came back while you were still in the band. Was that kind of cool, singing with both? You took this guy's job, and now you guys are both in the same band. What was that like?
It was perfect. Like he joined back as a bass player and doing some vocals, and that was at the time when the other bass player left the band, Tyre left the band, and Seaman came back, and Vortex came back as a bass player and a vocalist, and doing some shows and stuff like that. It was totally amazing. I was so thrilled about it, and we did. It was so fun to work on the album with him on the vocals, and yeah. And he's a great bass player, so it was very, very natural. And one thing also, that he could do a lot of different type of vocals. He could do my vocals when a live performance. I had a really big problem getting time off from work to be touring, and I always have like Vintersorg, his music, his creativity, and everything. And I've tried to have it as a work, and that's nice, but I prefer to not have it as a work. I prefer to have it as a kind of a side thing, as a hobby, as something that I do on the side. Of course, if I would tour all year long, it would be the work. But I've decided not to do it like that. And that has been very challenging for Borknagar, because they wanted to go a little bit more touring, and I had a little bit problem to getting time off from work for that. Vortex coming back was perfect. He do the bass, he can do a lot of the vocals and stuff like that.
I think I appreciate your work even more, knowing that it's you treat it as a hobby, as like, you know, an art endeavor, you know, as versus just slugging it out in the clubs. I think as fans we really appreciate something like that.
Yeah, I'm not taking sides. I think those who choose, I think now Borknagar, they wanted to level up a little bit, and they wanted to spread the word a little bit more about the band and have it a little bit broader and in a kind of a larger context. And if you have that kind of decision, of course you need to do more tours, you need to do a little bit other stuff. So I think everything is perfect if you yourself are on par with what you're enabling for. That's perfect. Have not strived for that agenda so much, and I've been so much into this creative phase, and that will be my doom, I guess.
Speaking of work, I read an interview once. I don't remember what magazine, but they said your work at one time you were a school teacher, like an elementary school teacher. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Teacher gets to sing you happy birthday, but the teacher is Vintersorg. Man.
Yeah. Actually, we came into this kind of situation. I came a lot into the situations when I have the kids' parents were fans of the bands and stuff like that.
Wow,
so,
yeah.
It was fine. I live in a small town, and everybody is kind of not know each other, but it's a very small town. So yeah, things pick up speed very fast, and if you know that you are working at the school, the kids come to the school with your band shirts and stuff like that, and that's so cool.
Jesse, can you imagine like getting a phone call from Vintersorg like, "Hey, your kid failed on math today, but hey, that's bad. Hey, how can you help him?"
Well, are you showing him the equations right? And also, by the way, the last album was damn good.
Yeah.
You get a copy. Signed copy, final.
We throw him the Focusing Blur album, and then he will know the equations further on.
Yeah.
Derek, would it be mind-blowing going to school and your favorite singer is your fucking teacher? Can you imagine show and tell, Jesse?
It would ruin it for me. I'd be like, oh
my God, Vintersorg gave me a C-. I went in there, I sang him his whole first verse.
Yeah.
Gave me a C- in social studies. Ugh.
Andreas, when Derek went to Sweden to do all these tours, the first thing I said to Derek after he finished these tours is, "Did you meet Vintersorg?" I kept asking him, like, "Did you meet him?" He's like, "No, but I met people who do know him." And I'm like, "What about him? I don't care about the other people." It's like, "No, I was hanging out with the guys in Dark Funeral. Fuck them. I want to know about Vintersorg." So, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to sit down with you because I think you kind of have a clout as a man of mystery.
To reveal some mystery, actually, I have one thing I could maybe plot.
Oh, here we go, exclusive, friendly man exclusive.
But this is a
yeah.
This is actually the one and only tape that we recorded, the rehearsal tape that we executed the band. I took all the songs that I was written from Barring Through, and I did for the Vintersorg, the first EP. So this is that tape from 92, 3 or something like that.
That's
awesome. But it's on Rehearsal, so yeah.
Well, I gotta mention it's the Rehearsal in case anyone listens to it and thinks it's not.
Yeah.
Would you ever duplicate that and sell it to like a crazy fan for like $2,000 or something?
No. I haven't digitalized it yet, because otherwise I think I will just keep it as a kind of a memory in my head, and I have it physically so I can see. Yeah, there where everything with Vintersorg started.
Back to the Vintersorg, I do have a question. When you sing in Swedish, is it a particular dialect that's from your town only?
No, I'm living in the north part of Sweden, so I think I have a really strong dialect. If we are thinking also, if we're comparing people living in Stockholm, the head town of Sweden, I think I pronounce things quite differently at times, but we have a really good understanding if we're talking to each other. So it's more kind of a dialect. The Vintersorg lyrics, it's even more strange than just a dialect, because the Vintersorg lyrics has a very kind of an aura of an older language than just where I live today, how we talk, and how I sing on the songs. A lot of there's a lot of understanding, of course, but I've always been very interested in language, also interested in history, and also interested in why we did just let go of some words that has some really richness to our language, because I think we are getting into a more kind of poorer language nowadays. I guess English is better, because English you have many words for one word. You have one word what you want to say, but you have so many diverse words to say that you. And in Swedish we have, of course, some of that, but it's I feel it's getting a little bit poorer and poorer, and therefore I've been kind of wanted to raise the flag of like, hi, we need to also take care of those really nice words that we have, because even if and some will say, but they're just old words, they don't mean anything today. Yeah, but in some of those words you have a kind of another nuance than just saying it another way, and therefore I've been really into trying to preserve a lot of that. So it has some a little bit of an aura of an older time, but it also has more kind of a poetic tongue to it, and that's my really huge interest in poetry.
Damn, you're just throwing so much knowledge at us. Jesse, I feel like if you want to tour with this guy, he'd be like, hey, look, guys, we got a bar or a library. Vintersorg's like, I'm going to the library. I'll see you guys at the bar. Can you imagine Derek being on a tour bus? People are watching pornography. There's naked girls, and Andreas is like, hey, guys, be quiet. I'm watching a documentary on physics, all right? Get out of here. Derek and Jesse, both of you guys went on tour many times. What, in just meeting this guy right now, your perspective, what kind of person do you think he's like on the road?
He would be like he probably would hang out on the bus most of the time. He would come off the bus, sound check and stuff, hang around. I wouldn't want to talk to him too much. I wouldn't want to like punish him or whatever, like we're doing now. And then I would like, you know, he probably wouldn't be around because he'd get mobbed, you know, he'd get mobbed by the fans and stuff. And then like he would probably play the show, maybe hang out after, drink a few beers, but not too many. And then probably go to sleep relatively early while the rest of us were still hanging out in the graffiti-covered alley, drinking beers in the alley.
You're kind of framing it really right. But, once in a while I will get some more beer, and once in a while I will do some more crazy stuff. But I've been on tour. I really like touring. When you have set on out of it's like when you're when you set the sails, you have to do it, and when you're there you just enjoy it. But of course it's kind of a demanding task for me, as I'm doing all the clean vocals and the harsh vocals every night. I need to take care of my voice, so I can't be drinking all night and then sleep for a few hours. And you could do that one day, but you can't do that every day. That would be
it's not a good idea to get like to be hungover while you're on tour, or like
no.
Like
for me it's also about unprofessional. Like who are you there for? People have paid tickets for the show. Should they meet totally hangover, doing crap job? Nope, they're paid for something else. For me, I take everything I do I very seriously, and sometimes I do overdo it. And sometimes people say, you have to just do stuff. Come on, just grab a beer. Yes, go now, man. Yeah.
So, Derek, I'm just curious. Jesse spoke. What was your ideal vision of Vintersorg?
I also could see a bit of a day explorer from time to time, going to check out the nearby castle or
libraries.
So I can see that, and I could see us texting each other and be like, oh, we're going to the Cardiff Castle with the Vintersorg today. You in? You know, but am I right? Take a walk around, especially around Europe. I mean, there's so much cool stuff to see. But is that something you like to do on tour?
Yeah, totally. That was the best thing with touring. especially when you go into these places that you haven't visited so much before. It's always nice to do this kind of hiking and seeing new stuff. And I've been, but and I guess this is all of my kind of curiosity of life, curiosity of new places, and I guess it's also a little bit connected to my historical kind of interest. You see what I have read about and how does it really is in reality, and how is it displayed and stuff like that. So it's on tour, I always try to grab those chances when you can go out doing some stuff.
Yeah, Mark's favorite museum was in Amsterdam. Mark, tell him what museum you visited.
I visited a museum called Red Light Secret, which was the Museum of Prostitution. It was really small.
Wow. What did you learn from the Museum of Prostitutes, Mark? What did you learn?
Not a whole lot, but it turned out like a lot of, like, they had like some pictures on the wall that apparently like some Secret Service guys got caught with hookers, and it's like, yeah, that's not a shock at all. I mean, all these like people in positions of power saying you shouldn't do that, but then they of course they go ahead and do it.
You're just saying when you visit these places, museums and these historical places, does that inspire your writing for future songs?
I think everything you do in your life has potential to grab your interest, grab your kind of inspiration. So in a way or another, of course, it could affect you. I couldn't say that I go to a kind of a museum and then now I have to write a song about that. I don't think it's really about like that for me. But of course, if you are interested into some concept and then you learn more about that, of course, that could lead into something. And I've always been a really kind of a space freak. So all this kind of astronomy. When I was a kid, even if I was a kid here in Sweden, somehow I got a hold of the whole Carl Sagan thing with cosmos and stuff like that. And we also had the kind of Swedish similarity. So kind of the space has always been this kind of utter thing that you need to just explore in one way or another.
Okay, so the first 3 albums are completely in Swedish now, and then you said you transitioned into English. Was that because you were aware that your English audience was growing, or did you want to make songs for us, like Derek, me, and Jesse? Like, what was the... Why did you decide
especially
to
for you?
I remember buying it and being like, he sings in English. Yes, I can understand one song. This is amazing.
That was still the more egoistic side of the composer brain that time as well. In the old days, I was playing a lot of death metal bands, stuff like that, always in English. Then I was like, now I will do Swedish, I will do acoustic albums, I will do different stuff. And I did that for some years. Then I'm always kind of a little bit on the move. I want to change stuff, a little bit curious. I think it's a curious mind that I have. Wanted to do something different. So we did the change a little bit to write in English. And when we did that change, we also did a little bit of a change in music. So the Cosmic Genesis is a little bit different from El Marquesón in a way. Kind of keyboard atmospheric in a kind of, and we also wanted to reach a little bit more. I don't have to know how to really frame it, but we wanted to have this kind of a little bit more kind of cosmic vibe on it, more kind of atmospheric keyboards and stuff like that. I don't know. Out in Cosmos, you don't hear anything, so it's very bizarre to think like, oh, this is cosmic keyboards. Well, it's totally dead silent out in space, but mine kind of fabricated throughout the whole kind of sci-fi era that this is sci-fi.
I refuse to believe it, Andreas. I feel like if I was floating in space, I would hear the music from Cosmos in my head.
I've always been a great fan of sci-fi. Well, and that's the cool thing with, I'm into science and I'm into science fiction as well. That's the really great thing about it, because many times science fiction is they're like thinking out stuff that's totally feels, oh, this is not even going to be close to that we can do in a decade in a year. But somehow many times science fiction has driven science also in a direction to explore more and be exposing more stuff like that. What I'm saying, like, nature on Earth, but nature is also the whole universe and everything. So I've been interested in so much of that stuff throughout my whole life.
Do you prefer to have your first song be like one of the more difficult ones so that you can get it out of the way early when your voice is still fresh, or do you prefer the first live song to be one of the easier ones so you can kind of get acclimated?
I've thought a lot about that, and I think that depends a little bit. Intellectually, I have thought about, okay, we have to switch a lot around in the set list during the 3-4 first song shows, because then after some shows your voice is getting stronger, you are getting more like kind of trained, especially if you haven't toured for a while. But we have never done that, because we have just done a set list and that we have to do it. And for some shows it's a little bit more demanding in the beginning. I think we have not really thought about how demanding is that song, the first song or the second song. I think we have more thought about the audience, right? Okay, they need to go on a trip here. They need to be on an adventurous trip. We can't just do the mellow part and then we'll go a lot of blasting and then we go into ending on a mellow part. I think we go in really a little bit up and down.
A mutual friend, Matt Pransky, had a question. He was wondering, do you plan on recording more like all English albums?
The short answer is yes. Behind the yes is that both Matthias, the other guy in the Vintersorg, and Simon, now the bass player, we kind of got a little bit inspired by our own past for Cosmic Genesis. It's been a lot on our social media channels. People have talked a lot about those albums, especially on Cosmic Genesis. And I was going back to that album. I was going back and forth, listening to the English albums. Like, oh, really? This is some really good stuff. And then I couldn't really resist my composing brain. I couldn't cut that composing nerve out. So I was actually writing a new English album for some weeks ago. So we have actually a full now album with English songs, going a little bit more, leaning to more this kind of Cosmic Genesis. But I don't think it's not really the Cosmic Genesis part 2. It's something new. But this is of course very bad out of a record company kind of view, because we are now doing a new Swedish album and then we have a new English album a little bit ongoing as well. So we will see how it ends up, but I will totally keep the songs, the demos in my computer. We will work on them a bit more. So that was really nice to go back. And I think that when you have doing music for so long time, it's your own kind of backlog is having many different nuances, and it's nice from time to time to really revisit them and see what it's all about, where it came from. Is it something that I want to explore even more and stuff like that?
Man, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let the guys have their closing statements. So D, go ahead.
To talk to us today, and thanks for all the music you've created that we've listened to for years. It's a real honor.
Perfect. More to come.
Everything he said for sure. Thanks for making Till Fjell's Part 2. That record's great. And if you ever hear from the band Arjan.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Lucas.
get in contact with him and do an Arion album, because you know how he gets all the singers. Like you would be an awesome candidate for like one. If that could ever somehow happen, that would be super rad. So that I'd like to make that comment, that closing comment.
Thanks for talking to us. We really enjoyed talking to you about Borknagar and what you've been up to. It's really cool stuff, man.
Yeah. Perfect. So Andreas, we would love to do, when you have the next album, do another follow-up with you and discuss that album if you would be interested in coming back.
Yeah, this was a nice setting. I totally up for that. And I will have a lot of albums now. We have a lot of albums now in the making. We have I have a new Water Climb album, it's more kind of a prog 70s album. The new Vintersorg we are recording, and I also have recorded an acoustic album under another name. So a lot of stuff in the making. Wow, I guess next year will be a lot about getting it out. So during now autumn we're going a lot more into kind of mixing production mode, and then in the beginning of next year putting a lot of stuff out.
Man, this has just been so incredible. And by the way, where can the fans follow you? Where can they follow you?
Yeah, you can follow us on with Naples Records. You can follow us on Facebook, and we have not done so much more into other social medias yet. And I don't see that YouTube, of course, is one channel. And I guess there is where you will start, and then you will dig deeper, and then you will dig into a lot of the materials. And then, of course, our companies are having our songs up on Spotify and that type of resources. So
Jesse, where do the fans follow Storm Ruler?
We are on all the stuff, but Jason handles most of that. But if you search for Storm Ruler, it'll pop up.
Derek, and what about you? Where can the fans follow Derek?
You can follow my personal Derek Funeral. That's my handle. But you got the Scour, Bill and Some of the Illegals, Cast of Stone, the Booze Hounds. I'm all over there. So.
And Mark, where can the fans follow you?
Facebook, I don't know. Instagram, Mark Nealon.
Vi räcker tullars borg. Vi sångar mod och styrka. Av jordpuls blir avlad. En avsmolig vildmarkstörn. En urtidskraft nu skänker. Den slagfärdiga styrkan. Till bistånd åldrat sinne. För borgen i kamen ung. Längs gilles snurrat mirrar. Med Oskar ut i hjärtat. Du var Sveriges slagare. Träd på Storukskör. Och skådar skändad mark. Nu sinnet blir svettat. En skära klarar starkare. I en vaktör. Ödemarkens son. Från majestätiska mod. Ödemarkens son. Svoren ner till sin fosterjord.
Mashed potatoes are great.